With January 31st State of Play, we saw a reveal for the Until Dawn remaster coming to PS5 and PC. And this is just another example of something that I really don't like that PlayStation is doing this generation, which is so many remakes, but more specifically, it's the games that they're choosing to remaster and remake that I'm taking issue with. Today we're talking about the PS5 generation and the tons of remakes and remasters that we're getting. I see a lot of people take issue with this and they get very upset when remasters are made, and I'm not typically one of those kinds of people. I think remasters have their place, and the thing about them is they don't really take away from anything, you know what I mean? Like, people seem to think that if a remaster gets made or a remake gets made, that it's taking away from new games, and this just really is not the case. Remasters and remakes are typically done by very small teams, and it's just something to sort of be a placeholder in between the big games. Because obviously games take too long to make nowadays. You're not going to have a huge game ready to make, you know, every couple months or even every year. So you need those little things in between to fill in the gaps. So what I'm trying to say is I'm not here to complain that remasters exist, but I do have issues with the games that PlayStation is choosing to remaster this generation. For whatever reason, it seems like everything we get is a PS4 game, which to me just makes absolutely no sense. All of these PS4 games are already playable on the PS5 natively with backwards compatibility, so I don't understand why these remasters really have to exist. And the other thing about remakes is that no one's forcing you to buy it, right? I'm someone who, for example, with Until Dawn, I already own Until Dawn, I already played it. So that remake is not for me. That remake is for people who haven't played it yet and just want to buy the best possible version. And I already know some people are going to say, well, why wouldn't you just buy the PS4 version? It's like $10 now. And I mean, I get that as well, but some people don't care about that. They just want to play the PS5 version, which is fine. So I have no issue with the remasters existing, but my problem is, why are we doing it for all these PS4 games when they're already playable on the system we have? Sony has such an incredible backlog of games that are stuck on their consoles, whether it's PS1, PS2, PSP, Vita. I mean, Vita would be a little harder because of the touchscreen, but still. And most of all, PS3. There are so many games stuck on the PS3 that cannot be played natively on any other system. And all of those games are games that I would love to see remastered. Something like, you know, the Resistance trilogy, that is stuck on PS3. There's no other way to play it. There is the streaming on PS5, but I'm not personally a big fan of game streaming, and I want to be able to play them natively on the console without having to stream them. I want to give you some examples of remakes and remasters that I think are actually worthwhile and compare it to what we're getting on PS5. So the first example I'm going to give you is God of War 3 remastered on the PS4. So I've always thought that release was really weird, because why only the third one? Why not do like a trilogy or something like that, especially because God of War Saga already existed at the time. But regardless, that was a remaster that made some sense because God of War 3 was stuck on PS3. You couldn't play it on your PS4 natively. So there was a reason to have God of War 3 remastered on the PS4. An even better example is Uncharted: The Nathan Drake Collection. PS4 was selling a lot better than PS3, which meant a lot of people were buying PS4s who probably didn't own a PS3. And with Uncharted 4 coming out, Naughty Dog wanted these players to have a way to play the first 3 games so they'd be caught up. So that is a remake slash remaster slash collection, whatever you want to say. That is one that has value. That is one that has a reason to exist, because it was the only way that someone on a PS4 could natively play those first 3 games. Let's also compare it to what Nintendo's doing this year. So a lot of us know that the Switch 2 is probably coming out this year, and so Nintendo's gonna, slow down the release of Switch games, with their bigger games being saved for the new console. But at the same time, they don't want to have a year where they release nothing, so they're doing a lot of remakes. They're doing Mario vs. Donkey Kong, a remake of the GBA game. They're doing Luigi's Mansion 2 HD, the 3DS game, and they're also doing Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door remake, which is a GameCube game. So all 3 of those games are not natively playable on the Switch. So all 3 of those games have a reason to exist. Not only are they stuck on old systems that a lot of people don't have access to anymore, but they're also just old games that could use a new level of polish. But then let's look at the Uncharted remake that we got on PS5, which was the Legacy of Thieves collection, which was Uncharted 4 and The Lost Legacy. Both of those games were already playable on the PS5, so why does it exist? And the same could be said for The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered, the same could be said for the director's cuts they did of Ghost of Tsushima and Death Stranding, the same could be said for Spider-Man Remastered. I mean, all of these different games, they're all PS4 games, all of them. Now, oftentimes these games are also getting a PC release at the same time, So I do understand that Sony's probably just trying to release them for PC, and they're just like, well, we might as well make a PS5 version also. Because again, no one's forcing you to buy these games. If you've already played them on PS4, just don't buy the new version. Or if you want to play them for cheaper, you can just get the PS4 version and play it there. It's just odd to me that every remaster on PS5 seems to be a PS4 game when it's the only games in Sony's catalog that we can actually already play. And then there's also rumors that they're going to do a Horizon Zero Dawn remake. Once again, a PS4 game that is playable on PS5 already. So I don't know, I'm kind of ranting now, but I hope I'm being clear here. I'm not saying remakes are bad. I'm not saying that, PlayStation shouldn't do remakes or remasters ever. I'm just confused as to why we're only getting PS4 games when it's the only ones that we can already actually play. I oftentimes feel like Sony's a little bit disrespectful towards their old catalog of games. Not even disrespectful, but just like they don't really seem to care about them. And if we're gonna get remakes to kind of fill in the, empty gaps of time, that's fine, but why not have it for some of the games that are stuck on old hardware? I don't know, let me know what you think. I always see people just getting so angry that remasters even exist, but I don't really see anyone ever talking about the fact that it's all PS4 games, because that to me is the issue. It's not the issue of remasters and remakes, it's the issue of games that we can already play on our console being re-released. Let me know what you think.